All right. So, to all of you, welcome to Cryo. As most of you already know, we're a startup very focused on upskilling. Been in business for about 4 years. We've helped and worked with thousands of learners across the past 4 years, helping them become successful software developers, much like Nirav, and hopefully all of you can learn a lot from his journey as well. Right. So, Nirav, before we begin, I'll just introduce myself very briefly to the audience, and then you can go ahead and introduce yourself. So, I have about 18 years of experience in the software industry, mostly in product development. Right. I've worked in companies in Silicon Valley, been part of startups that have gone through successful acquisitions. One of the startups I was working at was acquired by Cisco. The other one was acquired by Google. So fair amount of experience, been at both these companies for more than 5 years. Returned to India, got together with friends. Now co-founded, part of the founding team of Cryo, right? So this is a little bit about my journey. Nirav, why don't you go ahead, talk a little bit very broadly. We'll definitely go deeper into your experience, but if you could just give a brief overview about your journey.
Yep, sure. So I graduated in 2018, and I was lucky enough to get internship at Amazon from a tier 3 college, right? My batch was the third batch out of the college. So
Mhm.
college was also pretty new. It was not like the college has a long history and lot of strong alumni,
Right.
right? So that was one of the luckiest thing I would say. I got it as part of my career. And after Amazon, I joined Hewlett Packard Enterprise, stayed there for 2 years, then moved to PayPal in Bangalore again. There stayed there for 2 years, and last year in April, right, summertime, I relocated to Ireland, Dublin. Right now, I'm in Ireland, and I joined Microsoft over here. So like I have a variety of experience working, like mostly working with the backend development, or you can say product development or software development.
Right.
Overall, around 5.5 years of tech experience with couple of different technology.
All right. All right. Definitely very inspiring journey. And I'm sure many people in our audience today would really want to go deeper and understand, what you did and how you kind of built and crafted your own career, right?
Yep.
So Nirav, I'll give you a little bit of context about the audience we have today. That way, we can, try to customize our messaging, or the points we focus on. We try to customize it for our audience. Okay, so many people in the audience, working professionals, less than 3 years of experience. There are also a few students who have just graduated or are going to graduate soon, right? There are a few people who have graduated. They're looking for their first job opportunity, and they're trying to see how they can make inroads into the software development domain, right? So it's a good, healthy mix of these three types of people, right? Some of them have prior coding experience. Some of them are trying to get into coding now. They've seen the software boom. They don't want to be left out. They've seen their friends become software developers and have a really good career trajectory. And now they feel it's their time to go and try to chart their own path in the software domain as well. Okay. So audience, you can go ahead and introduce yourself in the chat window. That way, Nirav and I can also understand a little more about your background as well, so that we can say something and discuss things that are more, relevant to your career situations at this time. Okay. All right. So without further delay, okay, let's go deeper into Nirav's background. All right. So Nirav, third batch, graduating from a college, almost like a startup college that you went to, right?
Yeah.
And you are one of the test cases that they're trying to see. Okay, how to run a college? They're trying to figure things out.
Yep.
And so talk to me about that. How did you decide to select this college? And talk to me about your college experience briefly, the placement situations at that time when you graduated, and and the internship. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So, why choosing this college, right? That is one of the most important thing. Like, I was getting into one of the very prestigious, like I'm basically from Gujarat, India. So I was getting one of the prestigious college in Gujarat, like Nirma University. Like many of us might have heard
Yes.
it,
Mhm.
right? With computer science. And this was a new college, right? And they came up with something called as project-based learning.
Okay.
So, and it was a deemed university. So in every semester with every subject, like 70% of the weightage is to your annual exam and 30% is to the project. Like you need to do project.
Right.
So like I tried researching about what project-based learning is. To be very honest, right, when I completed my 12th grade, I was not sure like what computer science is or what, how,
Right.
the
Mhm.
first dream to me to become a computer engineer was when I was in sixth grade playing cricket and GTA Vice City and all of those on my computers, right?
Right.
So at that time, I thought of like becoming a computer engineer, and I never knew that coding was one of the things, right? And at that time, I didn't even have a computer or something like that. You used to
Right.
go to friends' place to play games, and all of those. Someone in the group would
Right.
have that, right? So
Uh-huh.
that was the time when I came up with like, okay, I want to be computer engineer because I enjoy this, right? But
Right.
then deciding after 12th grade, right, taking a prestigious university with something which is starting new, like as cryo, right, who
Mhm.
focus on learning. So
Yeah.
many of the people said me like project-based learning might be a good thing. Like
Mhm.
again, it's a trial. So I talked to the two batches which were already there, like tried connecting with some of the people over LinkedIn and all of those,
Mhm.
and tried to check. So like I got an idea that the college was finding a way out, and
Mhm.
for them also, our success were their success basically,
Sure.
right?
Right.
So the effort which I felt like the college would put in was much more than I would be putting on my studies, because they want to succeed. And if I succeed, then only they succeed,
Right.
basically.
Yeah.
So at that point, I thought, let me try around with it. And that was the first decision pointer.
Mhm.
After that, right, I was very lucky enough to get very good seniors, right, as a mentor
Right.
since starting on my life. Like I used to be in live in hostels,
Mhm.
and we had a group of seniors, right?
Right.
And one of my senior introduced to me competitive programming in second year of my engineering,
Mhm.
basically.
Right.
So that was, I would say, that was my turning point.
Mhm.
So I started to like that competitive programming concepts, like started to solve the problems.
Right.
Tried for SEM ICPC in second year itself. I was not able to go for regional levels. Then again, I tried for SEM ICPC in third year of
Mhm.
my engineering, and
Right.
we were selected for like two of the regional levels, like Kanpur, IIT Kanpur, and Amritapuri.
Mhm.
But we decided to let other team go to Amritapuri, and we went to IIT Kanpur, because like everyone from the college can go to one location, and so everyone can get exposure. Like
Mhm.
SCM ICPC is a kind of a competitive coding
Yeah.
kind of an contest held worldwide.
A very,
So
very well respected one as well. Yeah, definitely.
correct. Yeah. So that was one of the thing, and in that, right, we stood, I think, out of 120 teams there, we stood around 37 or 38, like solving 5 problems out of 10 problems, right? At SEM ICPC was a kind of a, like, I still have the t-shirt. I'm not wearing it because it gives me a kind of an aha moment or a goosebump, right? When I see the t-shirt, like the t-shirt says getting a green tick in in SEM ICPC is like all the test cases passing, right? So that's kind
Right.
of another story.
Uh-huh.
So now after that, right, my I diverted towards GATE, that is an engineering exam, right, for higher studies in
Yeah.
India.
Mhm.
So my major reason for targeting GATE was to go into some of the PSUs, like BSNL was one of that, then Power Grid. Then there were a couple of positions in Prime Minister office as a secretariat, like
Sure.
say, in the cybersecurity cell and all of those. So I was targeting those stuff, and somehow like I landed to Amazon. So that was
Good.
also an interesting story. Like
Well,
Amazon.
actually, that is a story I actually want to go deeper into, because
Correct.
no, you're coming from a relatively new college that doesn't potentially doesn't have a presence that much, not many campus interview
Yep.
opportunities, things like that. How did you land that internship opportunity in Amazon? What was the role? And also tell me, talk to me about what was the process and how did you get in? How did you manage to get in? Yeah.
Yeah. So if I talk about the process, right, mostly, right, what happened was like through our technical cells, right, or the career cell, they said like they came up with one link where Amazon has posted the internship opportunities,
Hmm.
and they said like if you would wish to apply, right, you can apply. We are
Hmm.
not sure if we would able to bring Amazon to our campus or not, but
Right.
you can try applying to it, right? So many of us applied. And if everyone knows, right, or to give you a brief detail, like the first round, you when you apply to most of the companies or most of the MNCs, right, it's called a screening round. It's kind of an online hacker earth or hacker rank kind of round where you would get coding questions. And in internships specifically there were, I remember it properly, that there were two coding problems, and there
Hmm.
were 10 MCQs, something similar to what they ask in gate or something like that.
Hmm.
So at that time, like as a college we applied, right, and all of us got a link, and we set for an exam. And I think 12 people out of 120 in our batch cleared that exam. So
Hmm.
then the placement committee tried pulling the string that we have
Right.
12 people who are like interview ready for at least Amazon, right? And
Hmm.
uh, I was not selected basically
Sure.
in those 12 people.
Yeah, yeah. Right.
So like the criteria was to score above 80%. Like out in two problems, you need to solve more than 80% of the test cases, and out of 10 problem or 10 MCQs, you need to solve eight MCQs, right? So
Hmm.
there was a criteria of 80%.
Hmm.
And like they gave a scorecard which says like I scored 92%. But then also I was not selected, but I didn't have any proof because I didn't took a screenshot or something like that.
Sure.
And I went to my placement ma'am, right,
Uh-huh.
and I told her like this is what the situation is. She said like she would try it out, and I again started focusing to gate, like because I was not selected, so everyone had 1.5 month to prepare, and I was like I didn't want to give up on my gate,
Hmm.
because like if I'm not selected for Amazon, then I need to have my plan A working, right, because Amazon was just a kind of a plan B.
Sure, sure. Right.
So then somehow, like before Amazon was coming to our campus for interviews,
Hmm.
before a week they said we would also like to interview Nirav.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, now everyone is preparing since last 1 month. Shall I focus on my gate or shall I focus on Amazon? So I said, okay, not let me not jump into Amazon thing, because my plan A is gate, right?
Right.
So I
Right.
continued working for gate. So gate helped me a lot, to be very honest.
Hmm.
I was able to clear many of my concepts
Hmm.
when studying gate, right? Because
Right.
gate
Right.
is like, it's kind of a logical questions they ask. It's not
Hmm.
like a theoretical question, right? You need to
Right.
think, and it's kind of a trick questions. So it helped me a lot. And then I appeared for Amazon interviews, and three of the people were selected. They interviewed us for an SD role internship, and then three of us were selected out of it. And then they said like we would give you an SDET role, that is software development engineering test. They
Right.
said it's almost similar to an SD role,
Hmm.
just you would be writing code to automate test to write test frameworks basically.
Right.
So I said, okay, let me go and do an internship at least,
Hmm.
right? So I did an internship at Amazon, and that was a game changer. Like from
Yeah.
the day when I was selected for Amazon, right? Gate was like at one door and I was at another door,
Yeah.
completely opposite, right? Then I went to
Right.
Amazon, right, and had an internship experience. Like you would feel like you are, at least in when you join as an intern, right? You would feel like you are one of kind
Hmm.
of a celebrity or something like that.
Sure.
They would give you travel accommodation in one of the best hotels of the city for 15 days or a month, right? Depends
Right.
on
Right.
uh, so that was, and at the age of 20 or 21, right, these all are the things which would attract you a lot. I'm not saying like it didn't influence me at all. It did influence me, as it would influence to everyone, I hope, right? So
Yeah.
that was the thing, right? And then seeing the offices, like huge buildings, and
Right.
using the Mac for the first time, like it was a dream for everyone. And then you are using a laptop which is 1.52 lakh laptop, right? So that whole thing influenced me for sure. I'm to be very honest and transparent with everyone, right? It's not like it didn't influence me, but yeah, that
Right.
was the thing what pulled me towards this
Right.
MNC
Right.
kind of, or the soft kind of thing. Yep.
Yeah, it's kind of an earned privilege, right? You worked hard for it, and just to sort of summarize some key points that you mentioned, right? One is you had been preparing. SEM ICPC is not easy. They are
Yep.
pretty challenging, and it's a global standard,
Yes.
and there's a lot of hard work that goes into it. If you have to crack 5 out of 10 questions, or even 4 out of 10 questions, I think it's a good significant achievement. Right. So that preparation went on for a while, and then you have these opportunities coming in on campus, maybe some open shortlisting rounds where you can go, anybody can attempt. One of the things that you notice is, and at Cryo, we've spoken to many companies and talked to them about their hiring requirements and their hiring styles. There are many companies that don't go to campuses because they get enough quality applications on their
Yes.
own. They don't have to put in the effort. It's a lot of effort to go to a campus,
Correct.
brand yourself, get involved with the placement cell, a lot of coordination, spend a day there talking to a lot of students, interviewing. It's very, very hectic from a company standpoint.
Yeah.
But companies like Amazon, where they get very good number of applicants directly on their job portals itself, you don't have to really worry about going to a campus or anything like that. And that's a really good thing for people who want to get into these companies. It doesn't matter where you're from, which college you are going to, or where you're, even if you're working and you're early in your career, you can just apply and take a screening test, which is like thousands of people are taking it. And if you do really
Yep.
well, you have a direct shot. It's a merit-based
Yes.
selection, and you have a direct shot at interviewing at Amazon. The preparation, of course, is something you have to do, right?
Yep. Correct. Correct. Correct.
So that's something I wanted to sort of highlight in your experience, where you had been working for it, and your gate preparation helped in your logical thinking and other things, and SEM ICPC preparation has helped. I mean, it kind of helped you hone some of your
Yes.
coding skills quite well, and then the opportunity comes, and you're ready this time, and that's when you hit
Yes.
for a six.
Correct. Correct. That's what happened with me, right? Like everything happened in background. Like it was not a very focused preparation for Amazon. Like
Mhm.
everything happened in background. I
Yeah.
prepared for everything. Like it was not a direct interview preparation, because at that
Mhm.
time none of us know what this big MNCs ask, right, in
Yeah.
interviews. But ACM ICPC is solving competitive coding kind of a problem, which is data structure and algorithm.
Yeah.
If we talk in cryos term, right?
Yeah.
And gate is more of like the other subjects like operating system, database management system, and computer networks, right?
Mhm.
These are, I would say, the four main important subjects to crack any of the interview, right? At like this level where you have experience less than equal to 3 years, would be
Right.
these four subjects: database management system, computer networks, operating
Mhm.
systems,
Right.
and data structure and algorithm.
Right.
If you are good with this four, I would say it should be good enough for you to clear any of the interviews. And Gate helped me with the other three, and my
Mhm.
competitive programming experience helped me with my data structure and algorithm, basically. So
All
a
right.
combination of all of those helped me get into Amazon.
All right. All right. Cool. That's good. So tell me, I mean, one of the things that some of the freshers, as well as people early in their careers, when we talk about SDET kind of roles, software development engineer in testing, right? It's actually a fair amount of software development that does go on in these
Yeah.
roles. You're as good as any other software developer in the team, except you're building very large scale, test suites and test frameworks. Uh, some of them are white box testing, so you really have to even understand how some of the underlying code base is working. So
Yep.
talk to me, and perhaps you can educate the audience also about this SDET role. What is it? Is it a good first step? If someone has an option to get into a really good company as an SDET engineer, what should they do? Should they consider it? Should they continue pursuing other opportunities? So talk to me
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah, so SDET role is like, if I talk very briefly, right, or want to give you a difference between SDET role and SD role for anyone or any non-technical person, right? So whatever you do as an SDET is used by company internally, right? So any piece of code or any piece of framework you write that is used by other teams to robust and to help make their product resilient, basically. And an SD in a product based company, basically, think like you would have an end user who is using your product, which is not it can be part of your company as well, because there are internal products as well, but there would be an end user for it. Like, think of Microsoft Office, which is a kind of a product which is used by many of the end user, but in Microsoft also we use that. But if there is a testing framework, right, as part of Microsoft, then it is only used by company internally to either test their products or
Yeah.
automate their testings and all of those. So
Right.
that is the only difference.
Mhm.
But there, in an estate role, you would have to think as per the perspective of testing the product, versus in the product, right, product development, the SD roles, you would have to think in the perspective of end user experience or
Right.
kind of a thing, right?
Right.
So this is the main difference. But I would not say an estate role is kind of an QA, that is quality assurance engineer kind of a thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because in QA you just write test cases, you automate test cases, versus in SDET you write the whole framework which helps you to write the test cases, basically,
Right. Right.
right? So
Yeah.
that's the difference. So SDET role also has a fair amount of coding. So
Mhm.
and one thing which I have seen very frequently, right, in many of the people is we are afraid to write code.
Right.
And it's not just everyone, it happens with me also. So after coming to Ireland, right, specifically, what I have seen is most of us, right, as I'm talking about my network versus my, if I think about my experience in college, we are afraid to try out things. Like,
Mhm.
if we go and see a new technology is coming up, right, we would just go through it, try to understand what it is, right, but we would not do an hands-on experience.
Right.
That
Right.
is where I feel we need we can improve a bit. Doing
Right.
an hands-on is one of the thing which would help you uh, gain that confidence.
Right.
Because I am seeing people over here, right, and any new technology or anything coming new, right, they
Mhm.
would be like, okay, let's do hands-on, right? Let just kind of let's say you want to go and learn new programming language, we would go and see some videos on YouTube and all of those. But
Mhm.
here people would directly start reading the documentation and start with an hello world code, right? As simple as that. So that is the difference which I see. That was with me as well, and I still somewhere find it, like I don't want to be out of my comfort zone at some point in time to learn new technologies, and I don't want to dirty my hands to do an hands-on.
Right.
So that
Right.
is one of the very big suggestion which I would like to give to everyone.
Mhm.
Do an hands-on. At the end, right, you would fail. That's okay. You would get some errors when you write code, right? You would keep some bug, but that would help you improve your debugging skills, right?
Mhm.
Like, coding skill is as important as debugging skills. You can write code, everyone can write code, but if you
Right.
cannot debug it, right, then it's not like it's very easy job. Like, if
Mhm.
you join any of these big MNCs, you would clone the repo and the repo would be in GBs, like many of the repos, right, with the
Right.
builds and all of those. So if you feel that it would be kind of a finding an or fishing in an ocean, right,
Mhm.
getting that one fish out of ocean to debug a bug,
Yeah.
right? So if you are not doing a lot of hands-on, I would suggest you to start with it right now. That
Right.
would help you with many of those stuff.
Right. Cool, man. So we are we're getting a few questions also in the chat. People wanting us to summarize those four key things that are required. to crack interviews, and I think we'll focus a little bit of attention on I mean, you've landed opportunities in some really good companies. There's Amazon, there's Hewlett Packard, HP, PayPal, and now at Microsoft. We'll save the Microsoft one for last because that's the most interesting one that everybody would want to know. But at least the other ones, what is the interview process like? How, as a person who is applying to these companies, right? And you talked about the four key things that we should focus on. Every applicant should focus on. We have people in the audience very eager to join these companies. Definitely apply to these companies, right? So talk to me. How should they prepare? What should their focus be? Right.
Okay. Yeah. So if I talk about the interview process, first I would talk about entry level to an experience of 1+ years, right? Almost that level. Then in most of the MNCs, the first round is called a screening round, where you get like a kind of same thing similar to like of lead code kind of a question on different portals like HackerEarth, HackerRank, then Codelity, and couple of more platforms. Every company uses different platform. So in that, you would get 2 or 3 programming problems, data
Mhm.
structure and algorithm problem, out of which every company has a different bar. Like either you need to solve 80% or 60% of test cases and all of those. Once
Mhm.
you clear that round, right, the screening round, based on your score uh, and based on the position you applied, there would be at minimum of, think of minimum of 3 rounds and maximum of 5 rounds. So in that 3 rounds, 2 would be data structures and algorithm, and 1 would be your kind of a behavioral round or hiring manager round kind of a thing, where
Mhm.
they would be checking, like if I talk about specifically about Amazon, then they have the leadership principles. Like there are 12 or 14 leadership principles for Amazon. So
Mhm.
there would be scenario based question. What happened when you were stuck with a project and you were not able to deliver in the deadline? How did you manage? And those type of questions, and you need to give them the answer based on their leadership principles and all of those, right?
Right.
So this is one round. And if I talk about a little higher experience level thing, right, 2+ years or something like that, then one round would be added, which is called as system design round. So at first it would be low level system design, right, which includes the design patterns, like the simple design patterns like singleton, factory, and all of those,
Right.
and your object oriented programming concepts, like what is polymorphism, what is abstraction, and all of those. And going a step further, like would be high level system design round, where they
Mhm.
would be saying like, I want to design a system like, let's say, cryo, where you can do online learning and all of those, right?
Mhm.
So what all the components you would be using, what is the data structure you would be choosing, and all of those things. So
Mhm.
this are like, so 3 rounds. So for sure, like the first 3 round which I talked about, to data structure and algorithm, and hiring manager round or behavioral round, is common for everyone.
Right.
But with experience, increase in experience, the number of round increases basically.
Right. Sure. Yeah. All right. If you're applying off campus, and you want to get noticed by companies directly, anything else in addition that you need to do to get your resume, I mean, to make your resume very attractive and very relevant for off-campus hiring? Also, how do you approach and how do you apply to these companies? Any thoughts or suggestions about
Yeah.
that?
So the first thing which I tell to most of my mentees, right, is your resume should be an kind of a resume which is like, can be parsed by an algorithm. Like many of the LinkedIn posts we see, right, and like people are making resumes which are like something similar, or the UI or the UX is something similar to the platform or the company they are applying to, right? I was going through the resume where people would have a complete black resume with a Netflix logo on there, and they would feel like it's a Netflix resume and all of those, right? So that's a fencing thing. I do not disagree with it, but if you are an UX engineer or something like that, right, then those all things are really interesting to see. But
Right.
when I talk about a pure front end, back end, or full stack kind of a role, then
Mhm.
first thing is your resume should be an algorithm parsable, because with most of the companies, right, for a single job there are hundreds of applicants, and the talent acquisition team cannot go through each and every resume. And if they go through each and every resume, right, I'm sure they won't remember all of them.
Right.
So there is an ATS system.
Mm-hmm.
uh, it is a kind of a machine learning based algorithm, right, which shortlist your resume. So if your resume is not parsable by an algorithm, right, then you are automatically rejected. So
Right.
that's a very first step. And if you do a Google search on saying online resume parsing, right, you would get a couple of links to see if your resume is parsable or not.
Right. All right.
So
Brilliant.
that is one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Then the second thing is like what I say to everyone, right? They mention like many of the resumes have like 20, 30, 40 different skills, right? But out of that, you are intermediate or advanced in just couple of them, right? So to showcase that, like, I know the skills, you need to show a relevant experience in that, right? Like, let's say you are mentioning Java as a skill, right? Then have one project which you did in Java and what you used out of it. Or let's say you used Python in one of your previous company, then have a one liner kind of one thing, or what task you completed in Python, what task you achieved in Python, and all of those, right?
Right.
So these are some of the things. Uh, so keywords like using verbs,
Mm-hmm.
right? Action verbs like achieved, like, and all of those, right? Those are
Sure.
called as action verbs.
Yeah.
Using those action verbs with your skill set, right, and combining them together into a short summary is one of the most important thing, right? And many of us fail at that point, right? I would just say I did an e-commerce um, project, right?
Mm-hmm.
E-commerce has tons of things, right? Were you
Yeah.
able to do all of those? If yes, then what all technologies you used? Like, you can say I used React for this, I used Java for this, and
Right.
this were some. So those short description are one of the important.
Mm-hmm.
So apart from this, couple of things which can be added is resumes, good projects.
Mm-hmm.
And one more beneficial thing is like if you can use some of the open source platform like or free tier platforms like Heroku or something to deploy your projects, to
Mm-hmm.
showcase what you have done and put your code in GitHub, right? And it's not like GitHub, like you completed the project and you upload the complete code. I would say try to understand what version control is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And try to push a small commits and all of those, so get though that, so that you can showcase that you know the skills. You don't need to say loudly that okay, I know GitHub, right? Because if you just share the link of GitHub project to the recruitment team, right? If they go and see that GitHub, okay, there are 10 commits and every commit has a good commit message, right? So
Right.
those all things are small impacts, but at some point in time, right, the small things would help you shortlist your resume and come over the other resumes basically.
Got it. All right, cool. So, any specific things, like when you're applying to MNCs, especially the kind of ones you have gotten at, HP or PayPal, things like that, right? Are some skills more valuable than other skills when you have to get shortlisted? And I'm speaking specifically about technical skills. Are certain tech stacks more favored than others? So, talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So mostly, right, what happens is most of the companies want you to select one of the programming language, which is a kind of a high level programming language and is an object oriented programming language.
Mhm.
So recently I had an experience, right? Like most of my life, I have worked on Python and I love Python a lot. Like other than Python, I have worked on Java and C Sharp as well.
Right.
But still, I prefer to give my interviews in Python. But
Right.
when it comes to low level system design and all of those, right, they want you to code in something like a Java or a C sharp kind of a programming language.
Right.
So I see, based on my experience, right, at couple of companies and taking more than 100 interviews in companies, right, with this 5 companies, like in PayPal itself, like during COVID time, we were hiring a lot. So
Mhm.
I would have taken more than 50, 60 interviews, and we were just hiring Java specific people over there who
Mhm.
knows Java. So I have felt that Java is one of the programming language which is preferred more in the industry overall. Like Amazon is the one who is like, I would not say completely, but 80% of the tech stack is in Java. PayPal is one who is tech stack is in Java, and many of the companies have the tech stack in Java.
Right.
So Java is one of the preferred programming language if you can code in Java. And it's not like you just know the basics of Java, or you can just solve the data structure and algorithm problem. You
Right.
need to understand some of the advanced Java concepts as well.
Sure.
So that is one tech stack where I felt that there is something with Java which you can like, but you can go one step ahead with it,
Sure. Sure.
basically.
Right. Right. Yeah, I think there's also a fine balance between when you're working on projects and building something with Java, Spring Boot, things like that.
Yeah,
There's some level of understanding that you require. But then many interviews, you also get asked about some internal
Java
details about
questions.
Java.
Yes.
It's very specific to Java itself, and knowing some of those skills become very, very important. For example, they could discuss garbage collection, or they could
Yep.
discuss
Multi-threading, garbage collection,
multi-threading.
synchronization,
Yeah,
and all of those.
some of these do get asked, even if they might not be directly applicable to the job, at least to crack the interview and show that you have a pretty robust understanding of the programming language and all the options it has, all the features it has. I think it becomes an important part of cracking the interview as well,
Yes. Yep.
right? A lot like data structures and algorithms. You don't have to go and implement a data structure in your company,
Yes.
but you should know them in order to crack the interviews. And some,
That's what I say to all the
yeah,
mentees, right? Like
yeah,
I in my past 5.5 years, I don't know if I have used trees or graphs in any of my company. Like
right,
I use dynamic programming for sure, but I
right,
haven't used trees, graphs, or segment trees or something like that in any of my job till date.
right,
Right. And I have worked with one of the best companies, right?
yeah.
And if and they are helpful for sure, but
Mhm.
it would be only kind of a 1% of the team, or 1% of the employees in the company are using that for a very kind of an optimized kind of an project or something like that. But in 99% of your case, like the
Right,
three things which helps you out is arrays or lists
right,
and hash map and hash set. These three things are like, if you kind of master these three things, for sure, like in companies, right, it should be good enough.
right. All right. Cool. So, any suggestions on how to like what kind of projects are good projects? Any suggestions you have, whether it's Java or Python or anything else? Any, if you had to just list out, say two, three, four very quick suggestions.
Yeah, so I would say, right, Java and Spring Boot is a kind of a favored tech stack out in the industry when
Mm-hmm.
you want to give interviews, because I see many open roles with Java and Spring Boot over there. So anything, right, and other thing is, right, designing REST APIs, right, and a microservices kind of an architecture. If you can introduce Docker and Kubernetes to folks over here, right, like, and microservices, right.
Mm-hmm.
So this five things, a combination of these five things would be kind of an ultimate thing.
Mm-hmm.
Docker and Kubernetes, I would say we can keep it aside,
Mm-hmm.
right? But REST APIs, Java and Spring Boot, right, would be a combination of that, right? Let's say just designing an e-commerce platform, right, where you have a web page in React or something like that, right? And then you have a backend server which is running on Java, Spring Boot, and then you have just couple of APIs to list down all the items and all of those. So anywhere you can then the basic of authentication,
Mm-hmm.
which is one of the important thing, right. Many of the companies does ask authentication as well, like, and if you have implemented a basic, like what is JSON web tokens and OAuth 2.0 and all of those. So those are some of the, and I would say this all comes when you have experience of 2+ years, right.
Right.
If you do all of this at 1+ years of experience, for sure it's a good thing. Like,
Right.
you would automatically put your resume on top of the kind of stack. But
Mm-hmm.
after 2+ year, if you know all of those things, it's a great thing,
Mm-hmm.
right. So combining these three things, REST as you clearly said, right, REST API plus Java plus Spring Boot, this should be good enough. Take anything, right, you can think of a small to do app, right. It's not like you need a very hi-fi machine learning on artificial intelligence kind of an project, right. Think of like your use case, like what you need, right. I don't remember things. Let me make a to-do app for me, customizing for me, right? I like, let's say, blue color. Like, let me set my background as blue color.
Mhm.
So think of your use case and try to solve your own problem and showcase that in a project. And when you solve your own problem, you know what you want to achieve. And that automatically does the kind of a product manager kind of a thing for you.
Sure.
And it would help you to get your own project definition.
Right, right. All right. Any insight into front end tech stacks? You know, this React, Angular, Next.js, Vue.js. There's so many of them. And then mobile app development is a whole different ball game altogether.
Yeah.
So, any suggestions there? Any thoughts about what kind of projects are generally viewed in very positive light?
Yeah.
Add a lot of weight to the resume.
Yeah. So first thing which I always say is whichever framework you choose, TypeScript is one of the most trending one these days.
Mhm.
Whichever framework you choose, right, and you decide to do a project, your web page should be responsive,
Right,
because in today's era, right, where we are, from mobile to laptop to a television, right, where you have browsers, the smart television, Android television, and all of those, right, if your web page is not responsive, that is one of the worst user experience you can give to anyone.
right.
So whenever you are doing a project, make sure what responsive web programming is,
Mhm.
right, and have your website as a responsive one.
Right,
So
right.
like framework, React is a trending one for sure, right? TypeScript is trending one, and all of those. You can choose any. JavaScript is a kind of a basic thing, a
Right,
basic building block. You need to know JavaScript, and then on top of it, you can play around with couple of frameworks like MERN-stack or MinStack or anything, right? All
right.
of those are great, but make sure to keep in your mind that you need to work on responsive apps and think of, or one of the area of exploration which I can give is progressive web apps. What are progressive web apps are like a website can be added as an app to your mobile, right, and it gives you a kind of a native mobile application kind of a feeling.
Mhm.
Although it is opening a website, but
Mhm.
you would feel like you are using a mobile app. And
Mhm.
progressive web apps are very popular these days because
Mhm.
they take very less memory,
Mhm.
as in installation memory, and also it uses very low amount of RAM. So that is one of the other thing which I can give as an area of exploration.
Sure. All right. Great. Cool. I'll be sharing a few takeaways here. So if anyone wants to make notes, hopefully you're making your own notes. Don't rely only on me. But I'll try to summarize what Nirav is stating. That way it'll be useful for everybody, right? All right. So are they like uh, the kind of candidates that some of these MNCs are open to? Like, I'll give you a list of different scenarios, and you give me your thoughts about whether MNCs might be open to candidates with these kinds of backgrounds. Okay.
Okay.
One is people who have some sort of a gap in their career, either during college or post college, a little bit of a gap, maybe a year or thereabouts. That is one. And the second one is people who have worked in MNCs, then gone to some smaller places, and then perhaps want to get back to MNCs. So, talk to me about these two kinds of scenarios. Generally, how do MNCs, and you've been on the inside, how do you view candidates like this with this kind of backgrounds?
Yeah. So first taking the easy one, the second one, like
Yeah.
if you have worked in an MNC and then going to a startup and then again joining back MNC, that's
Mhm.
completely understandable, right?
Mhm.
Because at some point in time, many of the people start feeling that MNC runs at a slower pace than the startup,
Mhm.
because with most of the MNCs, right, you would have processes to follow, versus in startups, the delivery time is more important. So they are in a process of making processes basically,
Right.
but they have not reached to a level where they have a defined process for everything. But in MNCs, right, let's say if I want to debug a bug in a production, right, and I'm a live site engineer, then there is a process which I need to follow. I cannot directly jump into and log into a production VM and pull in the
Mhm.
logs and all of those, right?
Right. Right.
So uh, the second scenario is very easy for sure. all the MNCs are open to it. And I have seen many examples where people go from MNCs to startups and then coming back to MNC. So easy one.
Mhm.
And coming to the first question, right, where you have some break in your career,
Mhm.
right? So I would divide it into two cases
Mhm.
where, let's say, after the break, you have already started uh, your career in some other companies
Mhm.
versus a scenario where you are already in that break and you are starting your career once again from zero.
Sure.
So again, taking the second scenario first, because that's an easier one. Like if you are already in a company and had some break at some point in time, that
Mhm.
would not impact you a lot for
Mhm.
MNCs,
Mhm.
because breaks, like at least out of India, I have seen in India also we are adopting to it, but at least outside of India, I have seen like this type of breaks are very common. Like
Right.
people take a break like this a lot, right?
Mhm.
And I'm just talking about 6 months to 1 year of break. It's not
Right.
like a 5 year, 10 year, 15-year long break or something, because someone told have a 10 years of career break.
Right.
So that type of scenarios are again easy. As I said, MNCs are fine taking it. And the one where you are already in a break, right?
Mhm.
And you want to start your career once again. So those are scenario based things where like it, your resume, like what is your previous experience, why you, why you took a break, because most of the companies would ask you like why you took a break, right? It can
Mhm.
be many personal reason. It can be like I was trying out on a startup which failed, right? Or I was trying out on some business which failed.
Right.
So that is completely candidate to candidate based thing, and the decision is mostly in the hand of talent acquisition team and the hiring manager.
Right.
Like if you are being referred by someone to the team, right, then the
Mhm.
decision is in the hand of the hiring manager. And
Right.
if you have applied through career portal, then the decision is in talent acquisition team, is
Right.
what I would say.
Right.
So there is a probability that your resume would be selected. Why? Because if let's say there was a hiring boom after COVID, right?
Mhm.
Like every company wanted to hire. If such hiring booms are there and the company is short of candidate, then
Mhm.
for sure you have higher chances of your resume getting filtered.
Got it.
But in a macroeconomic condition like this, we are in current situation, right? In
Mhm.
similar type of scenarios, when for one job you are getting 250, 300 applications, right?
Mhm.
Then the company, but obvious anyone, like as a end user, or as an employee to the company, the first thing company needs to, or the first thing that employee needs to think of is that how would the candidate we are hiring would benefit the company in the best way possible, right? So in
Right.
this type of scenario, it becomes little tougher to shortlist those type of resume
Got
in
it.
MNCs.
Got it. Got it.
And this is the main thing which I tell to everyone, right? It's not for like whatever I told, it's not for demotivating you. It's okay, right? So the first important thing is basically your career or the first job. Like let's say I want to climb a 10 floor building, right? Then I cannot directly jump on the 10th floor, right? I need to go one step at a time, and
Mhm.
I need to climb first floor, second floor, third floor, and so on, right?
Mhm.
So like climbing that first step is important, is what I would say.
Right.
Grabbing that one opportunity, like in your resume, adding a title of software developer with any of the company is important. And once you are into it, right, you would start building your network, you would start building your connection, and then it's like you would see that the world is small.
Yeah. Yeah, I think getting one company to take a bet on you and giving you that first opportunity, especially if you're taking a break, I think those
Yeah,
are it's very important. And like Nirav said, a few things you can do is try to work on some projects, have a good story about what you did during your break, make productive use of your break time, and show that it might have been a break in terms of working at some company, but
upskillings,
yeah, upskilling, or well, you use that break productively to do something that you really wanted to do,
right?
and the break is a net positive for you, and you've come out on the other side of the break as a person who is much stronger, and more competent and much more employable. I think if you can showcase that, I think that'll have a definitely a big um, boost.
Yep,
At least
yep.
certainly it'll improve your chances rather than just saying your identity should not become I've taken a break.
Yep.
Now, some of you who have taken a break, there's nothing you can do about it. You can't change history.
Yes.
So just become a really good developer. Have some
Yep.
amazing projects
So
and
one another
distinguish
thing
yourself.
which you
Yeah.
can do, right?
Yeah.
If you have taken break, try to go on freelancing portal and try to get a freelancing project, right, for a
Mhm.
client.
Yeah.
Right, there are many of freelancing portals which are very specific to software development, right? So
Right.
go over there, do a project for your client, right,
Yeah.
and get a kind of a review from clients,
Mhm.
right? And adding that to your resume would be one more impactful thing if you have taken a break. Like,
Mhm.
it's you have done a project which is in live right now, instead
Mhm.
of doing a project just for yourself. That is impactful for sure, but if you get an opportunity to work for someone else and that is being used by someone else, then that's adding an extra level of kind of a star to your resume. So
Right.
that is one way you can justify a break.
All right. Uh, I think we're running out of time. We have very little time remaining. So I want to definitely cover your Microsoft, experience, and how did you land up in Ireland? Was it an internal transfer, or did you join them directly in Ireland? Talk a little bit about that and how others can also potentially get and crack similar
Yeah.
opportunities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So first thing to answer first, like I joined Microsoft directly in Ireland. I was in PayPal in India, and then I directly got an opportunity to join Microsoft over here. So
Mhm.
how I joined was like, as I said, right, once you start your job and once you start your career, the very important thing for any software developer or any person who is in career, right, is LinkedIn for
Mhm.
sure. If you need to network well over LinkedIn, right, you need to connect with right people at right time. And I got the opportunity to join Microsoft via I would say talent acquisition team from LinkedIn, like Microsoft talent acquisition team from LinkedIn. We both connected, right? And he posted an opportunity at Microsoft Ireland, so I just as a kind of a formal thing, right, to just to know about more about opportunity, I just pinged him over the LinkedIn
Right.
and ask him like what this opportunity is about and all of those. And I
Mhm.
said, I'm in India. Are there any chances I can get into Microsoft Ireland? So he
Right.
said, yes, we are ready to offer sponsorship for this role, but
Mhm.
you would have to go through the process and all of those. I said, I'm
Right.
fine with it. So
Right.
for me, there were a couple of like first round was a screening round,
Mhm.
which was a Codelity, three problems in Codelity. I
Right.
cleared it. Then I had one telephonic interview kind of thing.
Mhm.
Again, as they were not like okay with screening, like okay, but they wanted me to sponsor the visa, right? So they wanted to make sure that they are hiring right. So they took one more screening round. And
Right.
after clearing that screening round, which was data structures and algorithm, and
Mhm.
after that, I had 5 rounds of interview, out of which 2 were data structure and algorithm. One
Right.
was low level system design, one was high level system design, and one was called as competency check round. Like in
Mhm.
Microsoft, the hiring manager round is called as competency check round, where they would
Mhm.
be asking you scenario based question and you need to answer them, and based on that, they would decide.
Right.
So after that, I was selected, and then the process of getting, like, here we get critical skills work permit. Like after getting critical skills work permit, you can apply for visa, and it all took around 5 to 6 months basically.
Right. All right.
Yeah.
That's good.
So this was like LinkedIn. My job at PayPal, I got through LinkedIn. My job
Sure.
at Microsoft, I got through LinkedIn. So once you are in like into the industry, right, someone is already working in some company in your connection, right?
Right.
And that is where like, and one more thing which is very important, right?
Mhm.
I have seen many folks asking to some unknown person, just can you refer to me to this role? Can you do this for me? Can you do that for me? I would say that is a wrong way to do it.
Mhm.
The better way, I would suggest, to connect with anyone and start on kind of a chat is, can you help me understand this role better? Is it suitable for me or something like that, right? It's not like you should not order some work like, can you do it for me or something like that. It's more like you need some help. So it's better to start a conversation in a way like, I want to know more about this role, can you help me? Then if once they say more about that role, then go and say like, I have this much relevant experience based on whatever you said, I have this much experience,
Right.
and do you feel my experience would be relevant for this role? And
Mhm.
if that person is you is taking you to the positive direction, then I would say you should approach for a referral or something like that.
Right.
And like it would look, sorry for my words, but it would look like you are standing on a crossroad and some beggar is coming to you and saying like, can you give me some money, right?
Right.
You should not make that feel to someone else. When you are approaching someone who is unknown to you,
Yeah.
then there is a way of communication, and this communication is one of the very most important thing in any of the big MNC. If you are not communicating in the best way, then you can get rejected, because I have scored many interviews and we have rejected candidate based on their communication skills.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Cool. Cool. Thanks a lot. I mean, Nirav, I think I know you have a hard stop at 1 o'clock. I
Yep.
don't want to impose on that, right? But thank you so much. Any parting words of encouragement or
Yep.
any advice that you want to share before we let you go?
Yeah, so I again, if some of my mentees has joined this session, right, then they
Right.
already have these words, but I like this analogy a lot. I take everyone back to their school days when they started with the first grade or second grade, where
Yeah.
they started studying mathematics, the
Mhm.
mathematical operations like addition, subtraction, multiplication, and all of those, right?
Right.
So during your first grade, if I ask you what is 5 plus 3, either you would use book and pencil to mark that horizontal line and then diagonal and then say me the answer as 8, or you would count on your fingertips as the answer is 8, right? But if I
Right.
ask you today what is 5 plus 3, then you, in a fraction of second or a blink of eye, you would say it's 8. So
Right.
that's a kind of thing. When you stay with the problem for this long year, your subconscious mind or your muscle memory helps you to solve that problem without even you bothering you, basically.
Right.
And that is the same thing with data structure and algorithm or any of the computer programming, right? It's a problem solving skill, it's a logical thinking skill, it's a logical thinking ability. You need to stay with it for a couple of years, and then your brain would start thinking in that direction, right, automatically. It's
Right.
not like you would able to do it in day, or there is no pill or medicine that would teach you, or
Mhm.
no platforms in the world which would teach you programming or something within 1 week, 1 month, or 1 year, right? You need to stay with it. You need to train yourself in that direction. And once you train yourself, right, if you can think of yourself, right, if you can learn addition, subtraction as a kid, right, then you are right now in your 20s or in your 30s, right? Then why not you can learn something harder? Just have some patience, just have some consistency. And if you have patience and consistency, which is called as perseverance, then for
Mhm.
sure you can gain any of the skills in the world, basically.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Thanks a lot, Nirav. Thank you so much for spending your time here and sharing your valuable advice. I hope everybody here found great value in Nirav's conversation with us today and all the things that he shared with us. So, Nirav, thanks a lot.
Thank you
We
so
let you
much,
go.
Andre.
Feel free to drop off, and I'll just spend a few more minutes with the
Sure.
audience here and address them. Those of you here, Nirav also works as a career counseling mentor with us here at Cryo, and he actually does one-on-one career counseling sessions for people who join some of our paid programs. Right? There were a lot of very good questions. Hopefully, we were able to cover all of it. 1 hour, we realize, is actually a very short, short period of time, and in the future, we should definitely extend some of these so we can cover more questions. One persistent question that we keep getting in the chat is, you're coming from a non-technical domain and now you want to switch. A few things to note. One is definitely possible. At Cryo, we have helped many people make that career transition. But a few things you have to note, and it's not specific to Cryo or anywhere else, right? Hiring companies might not, factor in the work experience you've had prior to becoming a software developer. So you basically have to enter as a fresher. In many cases, that might mean that you might have to take a little bit of a pay cut because you're entering at an entry level software development coder, that kind of position, right? If you have, say, 5-6 years, maybe in a different career, you've increased your salary, and you might be making a lot of money there, but you're entering software development as a fresher, and you will be treated as a fresher in those cases. Of course, your work experience will matter. That will be factored in when they're having compensation discussions, but it'll be closer to a fresher software development kind of role, right? There's also questions about people with very long career breaks, like 10 years and all that. To be honest with you, it's very difficult. It's not impossible. It is difficult. Can be worked on, right? When you complete your learning and you're ready to start applying for companies, you will have to go through the routes that Nirav was suggesting, freelancing, build up a portfolio, get a few people to endorse you based on the projects you have done for them in freelancing and other things, and then start approaching a software development opportunity. It is not going to be easy, but it is not impossible either. If you want to be really committed, definitely can help. Just to give you a very different example, in Cryo itself, we had a person who was a dentist and decided he didn't want to be a dentist anymore, and then started studying software development, took a whole year to prepare and become really good at it. And then we were able to successfully place this person in a good company in an entry level software development role, right? So it's not a norm. It's a one-off kind of, not very rare. First of all, many people with that kind of experience don't want to become software developers. That's another reason why it's rare. It's doable, not very straightforward or easy. Okay, that's something that you have to know. Okay. Why are people working in big MNCs switching? With few years, switch to companies and look for other opportunities. I think it's also about people. It's the kind of opportunity. After you've worked on something for 1 or 2 years, you become very accustomed, very valued. And when you have a lot of depth of experience in a particular domain for 1 or 2 years, other companies start recruiting such people. So you want a senior software developer or a lead software developer. Other companies are pulling you away from these companies, right? So it becomes financially and also career-wise a good move many times in order to switch companies and go elsewhere and try something else and learn something else. But it's not the only way. There are many people actually, who actually stay in the company for a very, very long time and grow within the organization itself. And most companies, when they're looking for senior leadership roles, they value this kind of loyalty a lot. Okay. So if you see, a lot of the senior management, like directors, VPs and above, it's not surprising to find people that these people have actually been in the companies for an extremely long period of time, right? So loyalty is rewarded. A little bit of jumps after every 2 years or 3 years is also one way to grow your career. I'm not saying it's bad, but at some point you want to settle down in one place in order to grow vertically. Okay. All right. I think, we have addressed most of the questions here. If you want to try things out and see what it's like, start your upskilling journey. At Cryo, we have some very good options for you. No pressures. Come check it out. We have a trial curriculum that you can go through. We give you a trial session where you can experience what actual sessions in Cryo will be like. What do we mean by learn by doing and other things? We have software development and we have software development in test. So SDE and SDET roles, we cover both. We do MERN stack, which is React, Node.js, Mongo, full stack applications. We also have Java Spring Boot as a dedicated track. In SDET, we do Java, Selenium, and automation using all of these things. Pretty thorough in all of them. Basically work on anywhere from 4 to 6 projects in each of these tracks. So you can really beef up your resume and do really well there. Data structures and algorithms, system design, these are also things that we cover in a lot of detail. So, if that's something you want, we can be a very good partner to help you in your career transition. Okay. All right, folks. So I'll hand off now to Loki. So Loki is here, and he's going to talk to all of you. If you have any further questions about cryo or anything else, then Loki is right here to help all of you. All right. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed today's conversation. Good luck, and I hope to see all of you here in cryo. Right.